is here to run the show. It's Dan King, you should already know. Dan King is gonna run the show. Oh yeah, listen up now, here we go. Dan King, he is the king of the empire, the chief, the leader. He's here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know. It's Dan King, and it's the top 100.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. These are my top 100 games of all time. And this video is from number 30 to 21, so let's get started. My number 30 is a game where you're trying to construct your own theme park, but it's called Steam Park because it's a steampunk theme. And so here it's 2 to 4 players, plays in about an hour, and I really love this game. First of all, the components in this game are amazing. The little rides that you build are just these nice, great cardboard things, and the components are awesome. I like how the game's quite different. It has a speed element where at the beginning you're rolling dice as fast as you can to get the actions on those dice that you want. Once you place them, you're done, and the first person takes a tile, second, third, and depending on how fast you are, the better things happen to you. Because there's lots of dirt that comes in your park, and the slower you are, the more dirt you have. But with those actions, you're building rides in there. You're trying to draw people out of a bag to get the right color robot to go on that ride, because putting people on a ride scores points. All while doing this, you're trying to make sure there's less dirt. So sometimes you'll be creating outhouses and trash things to get dirt out of there, because dirt is very negative at the end of the game. So it's a very interesting game. You're trying to build up in front of you your own theme park. It looks gorgeous when it's done. And there's all these special little tents that you can do that give you special abilities. So there's a good amount of depth for this family weight game, 60 minutes or less. Again, this is my sweet spot, 60 minutes, family weight, easy to teach, but yet has some depth. And so it is just a great, great game, Steam Park. My number 29 is a dice and social deduction game. It replaced an older card game of the same name. We're talking about Bang the Dice game that came out recently. In this game, essentially it's up to 3 to 8 players. I like it better with more players. And in this game, essentially, you're rolling dice to try to do what you need to do. For example, there's a sheriff and a deputy. And the sheriff's trying to stay alive, and the deputy's trying to protect the sheriff. There's a few outlaws, and the outlaws are trying to kill the sheriff. And then there's a renegade who just wants everybody to die. Everybody has a secret role of one of those 4 people that I just mentioned. And throughout the game, it's secret, and you're trying to figure out who is who by what they're doing. Now, what they're doing is somewhat limited by the dice they roll, and you can re-roll the dice a few times, and each of them allow you to hit people 1 or 2 seats away, or they allow you to get some life back, or a really cool mechanism. Sometimes when you re-roll a die, it might be an arrow, and you have to take an arrow. And then once all the arrows are gone, everyone takes as much damage as how many arrows they have in front of you. That's a really cool mechanism, speeds the game up. But anyway, it's fun, it's dice rolling, you're trying to hit people. Hey, why'd you hit me? You're the sheriff? No, you're the deputy. No, you're not. And people are pointing fingers, trying to figure out who they are. It's just fun. You don't really know for sure who people are. You're trying to figure it out, rolling dice, having fun, and it's always a blast. Takes about 20 minutes to play. Bang the Dice game. My number 28 is a negotiation game. And I told you I love negotiation games. This is probably one of my favorite family-style 1 hour or less negotiation games. It's called I'm the Boss. Just got reprinted this year, actually, from Griffin Games. Designed by Sid Saxa, man. This game, I think, was originally done like 94 or something. And again, his designs are just timeless. They're still so good today, which is amazing. Plays from 3 to 6 players. The more players, the better. 5 or 6 is best. And in this game, you are basically vouching for a investor clan, and different deals will come up on the board, and one person will be the boss for the round, and they're trying to orchestrate deals and say, look, I need this person, at least one of you 3 to get in the deal. It's a total $10 million deal. Let's split it up. And everyone negotiates over it. And then as soon as you think something's done, people can play cards. They can go, you know what? I can take his place because I got a card that says I can do that. And then so we cuts him out of the deal. And people are cutthroat, cutting people in and out of deals. And then as soon as you think it's almost done, someone throws a card and goes, nope, I'm the boss. Now I'm the boss and I'm going to do this deal. Everything that we've done over there is thrown out of board. And then someone might throw another card. No, I'm the boss, actually. And tides turn, and people steal investor cards from other people, and it's just awesome. The card play just messes with people. You're trying to negotiate. It's a great family-style negotiation game. Takes about 45 to 60 minutes, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. Number 27 is a game, hey, I'm on the Dice Tower Network, but I'm still a fan of the Dice Tower Network. I learned of this game a couple months ago from Z and Tom. It's called Heartland. I think after I watched their review, I bought the last copy known to man in the United States. This is out of print. I think you can only get a copy from Europe, which would be pretty expensive. There's only a few laying around. 2 to 5 players, plays in about, it says 45 to 60 minutes, but it's really like a half hour. In this game, it's about farming, which isn't too exciting, but the mechanisms are really awesome. You basically have tiles in your hand, and you're laying them down on a board. And as these tiles meet and match, the bigger the fields you make of a certain type, the more points you score. Or instead of getting points right away, instead you can go for points later by moving up a barn track. And once you get up that barn track, a certain level depending on the amount of players, you can then place a barn immediately on a specific spot on the board. And now you control that. Nobody else can score points. So it's this constant battle for points now, or try to get points later. And then once you place a barn, everyone's trying to cut each other off. It's pretty cutthroat, but it's really fun. You can also move things up all the way to the barn track to get some end game points that are randomized. First person there gets the best points, second and third gets less points, but they're still random. I love this game. It is, again, sweet spot. 60 minutes or less, it's really 30 minutes. Easy to teach, you can only do a few things on your turn, but yet there's a lot of depth and a lot of player interaction. This is a great, great game, Heartland. Number 26 for me is a 2-player card game that came out a while back. It's pretty simple, it's called Lost Cities. It's very high on my list because it's simple. It takes about 20 minutes to play. My wife loves it. We play this in airports sometimes. We just leave the board home and just play with the cards, which is fine. In this game, you're going on expeditions of maybe 5 or 6 different colors, and you're playing cards to try to go on those expeditions, but as soon as you go there, you've invested $20,000 to go there, so you got to make sure that you get at least $20,000 back on that expedition. So you're constantly trying to figure out, oh, if I go there, I'm really going to have to work hard at that. And so there's also some ways that if you delay playing there, you can get some investors to come in and make it so that when you score that expedition, it's multiplied. But if you don't do well, the negative is multiplied too, so it raises the stakes. It's like a push your luck element. Also, when you play a card, you don't have to play it there. You can discard it in the middle of the board where other people can take things up. So on your turn, you're either taking from from the open discard pile, or you're taking from the top. And so it's this thing where, you don't want to help your opponent up. You might have cards you know he needs, and you got to keep them, and it mucks up your hand. But at some point, you have to get rid of them that might help him. It's this ebb and flow of tension of how long can I hold what I really don't need that will help my opponent. And it's a simple game, easy to teach, but man, the decisions made in it are just elegant, and it's awesome. I love this little card game, Lost Cities. My number 25 is a very quick and easy 2-player deduction game from AEG called Agent Hunter. Oh man, I love this game. It's very simple. Everybody has cards from 0 to 10, and you put in 3 guys out in safe houses, essentially. Those are your agents. And what you're trying to do is on your turn, you take a card. Most of the time what you're doing is you're taking a card from your hand, you're placing on one of the other players' safe houses. They look at your card, basically, what number it is, and they look at their card and they say whether the card in there is higher or lower. Now that opens information. Now they know that your card, let's say I threw number 7 down there and they said lower. They know that number 7 that you just threw down there is not one of your 3 cards. So you're trying to narrow it down by throwing cards and going above and below, higher, lower, higher, and you're trying to narrow down where it is. But at the same time, every time you do that, you're opening up more information to your opponent to remember to know. So it's just a very simple but yet elegant design where you're just trying to figure out where things are. And there's other things that you can do in the game, but really the great part of this game is the decision of how much information do I want to give to my opponent right now versus using cards I've already used that he knows about, but it might not be what he's got under there. Great game, great deduction, a little bit of memory element, and this game plays in like 10 minutes. You can play it a million times in a row. It's so fun. Agent Hunter. My number 24 is a pretty, I'd call it a heavy Euro for me. It's Rockwell. This is a game it says 2 to 4 players, but it's really best with 3 or 4. And it says it takes 90 minutes. This game has taken us 2 to 3 hours on most occasions. So at least 2 hours. It's a longer game. And in this game, you're working to try to go down, you're basically drilling beneath the earth, all the way to Earth's crust to get different types of gems and rocks and stuff. And those rocks can be traded in at certain parts for money. You can trade money for rocks. There's all sorts of different things. You can get insurance, so when things explode, it doesn't hurt you as bad. You can work with other people. Sometimes, I mean, it's partly semi-cooperative because you almost always will need to work with somebody at some point in the game, and you both get in on it together, and you both get some of the rewards. There's also ways that you can hire people to do things on your own. This is like a point salad. There's a ton of different ways to score points. There's a ton of different ways to get things. It rewards you for getting the first of certain things. There's just tons of decisions to make. I love the interaction of working together, that semi-cooperative aspect. It also has sort of a worker placement aspect to see what types of things you can do during that round, whether you're going to dig, whether you can help yourself with the hired workers, whether you're going to sell stuff or buy stuff. It's like an economic game built on worker placement, built on semi-co-op. It's deep and it's amazing. One of my favorite Euro games, Rockwell. Number 23 for me is part of the Mr. Jack series that came out last year. It's called Phantom of the Opera. And again, the Mr. Jack series is a two-player series where one player plays Mr. Jack, Jack the Ripper, and the other player plays the investigator. And in this case, it's a different theme where one player is playing the Phantom and another player is playing the person trying to figure out which person is the Phantom. Now, the thing that's different about this and the other Mr. Jack series, number one, is you can change the amount of difficulty that's in the game. So for someone who's experienced, they can adjust the difficulty, so if they're playing with someone new, it could be a good game. And that's huge because none of the other games in this series do that. In this game, you're trying to, the investigator is trying to narrow down each round. You have 8 rounds to figure out who the Phantom is, to try to figure out who they are. Now, unlike some of the other games, there's not as much, I'd say, bluffing and double deduction, because once you think you know who the Phantom is, it's not like you can just go accuse them. You still have to narrow it down and forcefully make sure he's the last one that's not, that's basically standing, that you could say, okay, he's the guilty one. It's really good though. It is deduction, trying to figure out who you think they are. Each of the characters has a special movement, so you're trying to figure out at the beginning of the round, okay, I'm going to move this guy and I can do this, and you're trying to like segment people. You're trying to bring people together. He's trying to split them apart. It's tug of war, deduction, some bluffing. It's just, the Mr. Jack series is amazing, and this is a good first step for the bigger games of that. My number 22 is a small card game, but it's a cooperative game about putting on a fireworks display. This is Hanabi, which I believe won the Spiel des Jahres last year. This is a quick game, takes about 30 minutes, it plays 2 to 5 players. Interesting, I love the mechanism in this because a lot of people have problems with co-op games because there's like quarterbacking where somebody can just tell everybody what to do or be very forceful. And in this game you have cards, but you don't see your cards. You see everybody else's except yours. And what you're trying to do is give clues to people to let them try to think what they have in their hand, to try to play them down on the table, and you're trying to display in order different colors of fireworks in order from 1 to 5, but you only have a certain amount of clues. So the clues got to be really good and allow you to do what you need to do. So you're giving clues that are very limited. Sometimes you're going to have to just discard cards that you may or may not know things about to get clues back. Brings a lot of tension in the game. It's just, everyone I played this with is enamored with it. It's even good with less players as well. It just changes and scales well. So Hanabi, from 2 to 5 players, excellent communication game where you're trying to communicate to other people what they have in their hands. It's awesome. It's something that you got to experience. And the last one for this list, number 21, is a deduction game. Surprise, surprise. From Days of Wonder. This is out of print right now. Mystery Express. I wish someone would pick this up. I call this game, it's for 3 to 5 players. I call this game Clue on steroids. Because in Clue, there's one person, place, and thing, and the way they did it. Here, there's 5 different categories. And instead of just having 1 card of everything, in most of the categories, there's 2 cards of everything. And during the game, cards are going to be moving around. They're going to be going into the train. They're going to be going into different people's hands. And you're going to have to mark, hey, when you see a card, is this the same card that I saw before? Or is this really the second card? Note-taking is huge in this game. It makes your brain explode. It makes your brain smoke. If you like heavier deduction games, this game, try to find, you could probably find some used copies. They're probably pretty expensive right now, but they are floating around and somewhat available. If you don't like Clue and deduction, stay away from this. If you like deduction, you want something that has a little more meat, that has a lot of thinking and a lot of note-taking and will make your brain go crazy, this is a great game. It's so hard that they almost assume that you're not going to get all the categories right. It's whoever gets the most. There's also a cool mechanism where right before the last round, you can put a telegram under the board and guess which things you think you have right, but it's a press your luck element because they can positive or negative depending they're right at the end of the game. A lot of good elements here, a lot of good mechanisms, and man, it will make your head smoke. Mystery Express.
He's here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know it's Dan King, and it's the top 100 board game.